What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with what I believe to be the penultimate or ultimate day of spoiler season. And what a day! Some crazy stuff got spoiled today. And there's quite a bit to get through. It is very late, and I need to hit the sack. So I'm going to dive straight into it without any further blabbing. Unusually, there was no more from yesterday. As those of you who've been following my spoiler content will have noticed, there's always kind of a couple more that happen during the night while I'm asleep, and I have to kind of catch you guys up. The following day did not happen this time, so we're going straight onto new stuff. And the first one is the creepy puppeteer, human rogue, 4-drop. Okay, a red rogue. 4-drop, 4/3 haster. Whenever it attacks, if you attacked with exactly one other creature this combat, okay, you may have that creature's base power and toughness become 4/3 until end of turn. It's not bad. That's not bad at all. It's probably better things to be playing on turn 4 in like mono red hasty guys. But who knows? And maybe the human thing might be relevant. Maybe the rogue thing might be relevant. I mean, it is rare. It's not horrible. You could have like a 1/1 token in play. Swing in with this because it has haste. With the 1/1 token, the 1/1 becomes a 4/3. Or, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of stuff that could be done with that. Not a horrible card. I just don't know if I can't remember now. There've been some 4-drops, like even just the Ballista Wielder, which I think Werewolves is going to be pretty good mono red deck. I was hoping for a good 1-drop in red, but I guess you just run removal in the 1-drop slot, and then have like Runebound Wolf and Reckless Stormseeker, and then the new 5-drop one. It could be pretty good. But yeah, we'll have to see how it develops. Day 1's going to be crazy town. By the way, if it is the last day of spoilers today, then starting tomorrow it's going to be theory crafting videos. They'll upload the entire set onto Aetherhub, and I will be able to go on there and start to pre-make decks ready to rumble for day 1. I'm not going to do full videos of those. I'm just going to do little quick rapid fire deck ideas so that we have a bunch of stuff to work with on day 1 as soon as the set drops. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Next up, we've got Wolfkin Outcast Wedding Crasher. 6 mana for a 5/4. Okay, but it costs 2 less to cast if you control a wolf or werewolf, which you will be in the deck that you'll be playing this in, which means it will only cost you 4. Right? 5 minus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4 for a 5/4. And at nighttime, whenever it or another werewolf you control dies, you draw a card, which gives it, and it's whenever or another. So it's like if your board gets swept and this guy's in play, and you had like 4 or 5 creatures, you'll draw 4 or 5 cards. So that's pretty nice. Actually, that's better than I initially thought with the cost reduction. 4 mana 5/4 is great, and then it turns into a 6/5 that draws you cards at nighttime. That's not bad at all. I might actually see some play. I cannot wait to start testing the new werewolf deck. It almost feels like it's gonna be wow. It's like it also got such a boost. Like it might even be if not straight away the first one, definitely the second one I try. Take the good stuff from Midnight Hunt and add the new good stuff in Werewolves from Crimson Vow, including that new one drop green guy. And I think we're gonna have a really crazy deck on our hands. That vampires better be really good to be able to deal with, because werewolves was already pretty good as it was, and now they've got like really good 5-drop stuff, really good new 6-drop stuff. It's and case in point. Next up, Averbrook Caretaker. This thing's ridiculous. I'm just not entirely sure, like, if it's better than Tovolar's Huntmaster, because it's on the same spot on the curve, but it takes a little bit longer to sort of start going. But and there can be many homes for this. But in Werewolf Tribal, you drop this on turn 6. It has hexproof. Okay, if it's nighttime when you drop it, if have Tovolar in play, or you have Unnatural Sunrise, a Moonrise, or something like that, or there's that new card that makes it nighttime, but nah, you probably wouldn't be playing this one in the Gruul variant. What was it called? Into the Night. But what was I saying? If it comes in on nighttime, okay, so at daytime it has hexproof and it's a 4/4. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control. At nighttime, it's a 6/6 for 6 with hexproof, and it gives all your permanents hexproof, not just your creatures, all your permanents hexproof. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. What? Like, if it's already nighttime because you got Tovolar and you play this on turn 6, you give all your werewolves +2/+2, and they all gain hexproof. It's it's kind of a more win thing. You're probably already doing really well in the game at that point and would have won anyway, but I just can't wait to play with it. That's a ridiculous card. If this stays on the board for more than 2 turns and you still haven't won the game, the opponent must have like an endless amount of chump blockers or have gained a lot of life, because this thing will get out of hand really, really quickly. I love the flavor. I love the art. I love the card. And the other homes I was mentioning was something like, Selesnya Counters deck finisher with like Boring-Klex or something like that. You have this and Boring-Klex in play, and everything gets +4/+4 every turn. Could get crazy. Next up, we've got this guy. Okay, so this is a dual-faced. Let's check it out. Jacob Hauken, the Investigator. On the front side, it comes into play. It's a 2 mana, 1 on a blue for a human advisor. That's a 0/2. And you can tap it and draw a card without paying anything. Tap it, draw a card, and then exile the card in your hand face down. You may look at the card as long as it remains exiled. Then you may pay 4 colorless and 2 blue, so 6 mana. If you do, you transform it. So is the exiling your thing face down, blah blah blah, the requirement for you to then pay the 6, or can you just pay the 6? It seems like it's a requirement. So you have to first draw a card, then you exile the card in your hand face down, and then you can pay 6. And then if you do, you transform it, and it becomes Hauken's Theory. Legendary enchantment. A little bit harder to deal with and interact with. And at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library face down. So you're basically drawing 1 card before your draw step. In your upkeep, you exile the top card of your library face down. You may look at the card as long as it remains exiled. And once during each of your turns, you may play a land or cast a spell from the cards exiled by this permanent without paying the mana cost. Wow. That's a crazy, crazy thing. But then again, okay, this reminds me of something like, what was her name? Jadzi, the Simic MDFC from Strixhaven, I believe it was. It was like a 7-drop. And then it had Magecraft, and every time you cast a spell, then the following turn you look at the top 3 cards of your library or something, and you cast any of them for free. Which is, it seemed initially incredibly busted, and a lot of the content creators were like very high on the card, and then it ended up seeing absolutely zero play, like no play whatsoever. I've not seen that card on the battlefield more than twice in the entire time that it's been out, and it's because it just takes too much to start doing the thing. It's a 7-mana investment. It did have a way of saving itself. Then it bounces back to your hand, but it's kind of like then you got to redo it again the next turn, and then you got to cast a spell on top of it, and then you got to have the cards in your deck that that you're not going to whiff on that top 3 look at thing. So then what are you going to put in there? Coma, Alrund's Epiphany. It was never. It just looked really crazy because you're like, oh wow, casting free spells. But then it was too much hoops to jump through, and it didn't see any play. This seems like something similar, in that you can play spells for free, but it's a little bit annoying to have exile the card from your hand if you can't play it straight away. You need to have 6 mana available. You need to hope that the opponent, you spend 6 mana, it's on the stack, the transform. I haven't actually, this is something one of my viewers also brought up in a deck I was playing with transform. Like there's nothing on the stack, it just happens. So okay, at least that, like if you pay the 6 mana, I think it's just gonna instantly transform. They can't like Infernal Grasp your Jacob Hoken and just like, oh, there goes your 6 mana down the drain. And then once you do flip it, it's ridiculously powerful, but I just don't know how often you'll get to do that safely, and then you still got to wait the following turn to start doing the free stuff, and then you need to actually hope that you get the free stuff the following turn. You might just have a land, So probably won't see any play whatsoever, but really cool. Next up, we've got Olivia's Attendance. 6 mana, 6/6. Menace. Vampire. Wow. Big ladies. Whenever they deal damage, you create that many blood tokens. And then you can pay whenever they deal damage. Any damage. It doesn't have to be combat damage. That's cool. So you can just pay 3, 2 colorless and a red, and have her deal 1 damage to any target. Straight away, that would make a blood token. Any, amount of mana you can dump into this would end up making that many blood tokens, and that seems to be pretty important. So, but it's sitting on the same spot as Olivia. So, like, I'm starting to see this deck better and better as like a lot more 1 of and 2 ofs that I'm usually comfortable with. But they're all good and they all synergize with each other, and it's going to be really hard to trim it down into just 4 ofs of, or specifically 1 vampire that's better than the other. And there's a lot of them that are sharing spots on the curve, so I think it's going to be like tossing up between 2 different vampires on the same spot on the curve, and then like going maybe 2 of one and 3 of the other, or something like that. Or 2 of 3 different ones all on the same spot on the curve. This may be a 1 of alongside Olivia, maybe a 2 of, not legendary. Because if she does get in for damage the next turn with that menace, and it's 6 damage first of all, but then you're making 6 blood tokens, and there's plenty of cards where that matters that have been spoiled already. Probably first deck I'm going to theorycraft on Aetherhub after spoilers are done is going to be a vamp list, so keep your eyes peeled. Next up, this is the cycle, the cemetery cycle. This is the red one. It's only one on a red for a mythic vampire with first strike 2/1. Wow, nice. That's really nice. This is gonna go with the adversary because it's definitely the side of the vampire deck that's definitely trying to do more burn kind of plan and less of an aggro creature plan. So more spells, less creatures, maybe 50-50 split. Because you and they've done this a lot in this set, and I like this thing where you like when it ETBs you exile a card from a graveyard, and then based on that card's type, something happens. In this case, whenever any player plays a land or casts a spell, any player, and if it has the same type as the exiled card, Cemetery Gatekeeper deals 2 damage to that player. So you can have, it's a land or casts a spell. So anytime they play a land, it does 2 damage to that player. Okay. Even alongside Thermal Alchemist and stuff. Oh, the red burn deck is getting better with this for sure. And that it has first strike, it trades up with other 1 and 2 drops is good. I think this card's great. And I can't wait to play it. You could like have it come into play on turn 2 and like exile the opponent's instant or sorcery that he's played on turn 1 or turn 2, his Deadly Dispute or something, and then for the rest of the game, anytime he plays an instant, and then you're going to definitely be playing lots of instants because you're playing a burn deck, it's 2 damage every time, and every time a land comes into play, and it doesn't say, and this triggers ability, it triggers once each turn, so it can just whenever, unless it's badly translated, which sometimes happens on this website. But that seems like a really strong card to me, especially with alongside the adversary, the red adversary. Then you can like recast those spells from the graveyard. Nice. Oh, beg your pardon. Next up, Catapult Captain and Catapult Fodder. The flavor on this. It's like launching zombies in a catapult. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures that each have toughness greater than their power, transform Catapult Fodder. It's a 1/5 for 3 uncommon. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures that each have toughness greater than their power. Okay, so this is a thing. There was that card yesterday, which was like a 0/13. This Unhallowed Phalanx, and then it got me thinking. There was this other card. It was like a Golgari one that made it so that your things deal damage based on their toughness and not their power. Here we go. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. So this is actually a 14-13 in combat. Huh. And there's a few other synergies just from the set that have to do with that sort of thing. Where and here's another piece in that where like you could here's one. There's 2. That's 2 creatures already on the board that have toughness greater than their power, and there's a few others in zombies, and then you can transform it, and then it becomes Catapult Captain, where you can pay 3 and tap it and sacrifice another creature. Opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. That's pretty nice. That's like having Fling or Kazul's Fury just on a creature. That's a 2/6. It's like hard to remove. It just sits there, and then at some point when you're ready, your Champion of the Perished gets big enough, and you just fling it at the opponent's face. That's pretty cool. That's actually really, really cool. I kind of really, really like that. Or, even that Phalanx guy for 13. Nice. Kind of weird direction the zombie deck to be going in. I wasn't expecting. And I really, really like the design on this card. I'm definitely can't wait to, like, brew off some jank like that, where you fling this, this 113 at the opponent with just chuck a bunch of zombies at Their face. Nice. Nice card. Next up, Cobbled Lancer. 1 mana zombie horse. 1 mana 3/3? Okay. That's really good. All you have to do is exile a creature card from the graveyard to do that. That's really easy to do. And then you can pay 3 without tapping at instant speed, therefore, to exile it from your graveyard and draw a card. That's a really good card. That's definitely going to see play in some Dimir Zombie deck. I'm fairly certain of that. That's a really good card. Sorry, I was just lost in thought. Like I was trying to think, what would you be happy exiling? Maybe your Shambling Ghast. And then you play this guy, and it triggers your Champion of the Parish. Then you get a 3/3, and then you can start drawing cards. You know, once it dies, that's like pretty sweet. Gives you a lot of value for a 1 mana investment. Next up, Crawling Infestation, 3 mana enchantment in green, 2 and a green. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may mill 2 cards. You may, so you don't have to. And then whenever one or more creatures are put into your graveyard from anywhere during your turn, you create. So it's 1 or more. So it can only happen once each turn. Make an insect token. Okay, that's rubbish. Won't see any play. Next up, unlimited for sure. Nothing. There's better things to be doing in standard on turn 3 in green for sure. Like a troll. Rift Wing Rife Wing Cavalry. 4 mana, 2/2 for flying. Knight might be relevant. It has training, and whenever it attacks, you may pay 100 white, and if you do, target attacking creature without flying gains flying until end of turn. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's going to be pretty sweet in limited. I don't think it'll see any standard play, but that's pretty sweet. We'll have to see how strong this training thing is in standard, but in limited, I think that's going to be really good. Next up, we're almost at Edgar. I thought it would be mythic, but anyway, spoilers. Let's first look at this Markov Waltzer. A 4 mana flyer with haste. That's a 1/3. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, up to 2 target creatures you control each get +1/+0 until end of turn. So you obviously target it and one other, and it then becomes a 2/3 with haste for 4 in Boros. So, by the way, I called it with my Mardu Fangs, the Scalding Fangs deck. You guys need to go watch that video and, enjoy the deck, copy it before the new set comes out. That's definitely one to get some practice on. I was like, man, there's a couple of days of spoilers that already come out, and I saw some of the flavor on some of the cards. One was that like invite into the party thing where you have to it's a white enchantment that draws you cards eventually. I was like, are they signaling that there's gonna be some white splash for the Vamps deck? And then there was a vampire cleric in Orzhov colors a couple days ago, and I was like, bingo, nailed it. Here it is, Markov Purifier. And now the main groom, the guy that Olivia's marrying, the whole set is based on this vow, is Edgar, and he is in Orzhov as a vampire noble. So there's definitely going to be both a Rakdos aggro vampire list. There's going to be definitely what's appearing to be a bit more of a mid-rangey Orzhov vampire list. So this Markov Waltzer is supposed to go in there, I guess, but it sits on the same spot on the curve as now many really good 4-drop vamps that we didn't have that many of, except for the Imistrum Predator in the previous format. So now we've got Planeswalkers, this guy. I mean, the list goes on. There's so many good 4-drop vamps. So what I was talking about earlier is going to come into play, where like you have to decide, are there going to be any that are 4-ofs, and then just clog up that slot so much that you'll probably never see the 2-ofs, or you just put you know, 2 of everything, or like 1 of some and 3 of others. It's going to be really interesting to figure out those numbers and where to intersperse your legendaries, because there's some now at all the spots on the curve. So without further ado, let's talk about Edgar himself, the Charmed Groom, 4 mana, 2 and 1 white and 1 black for a legendary vampire noble. Other vampires you control get +1/+1. So there's your anthem. And you could even, because it's Mardu, play Rally the Ranks as well and get a double anthem. But here's our Lord, okay, and it's interesting that it's a 4 mana Lord. Usually they're like 2 or 3 mana Lords, so. But it's got a lot of crazy text, this thing. So basically, other vampires you control get +1/+1. But then when it dies, whenever it dies, you return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, and it comes back as Edgar Markov's Coffin, the legendary artifact. So it's kind of cool, the flavor. It's like a vampire gets killed, goes back into his coffin, just needs to rest up and heals, and then he can come back. At the beginning of your upkeep, you create a 1/1 white and black vampire creature token with lifelink and put a bloodline counter on Edgar Markov's Coffin. Then, if there are 3 or more bloodline counters on it, you remove those counters and you transform it back into Edgar, the Charmed Groom. But you know, so even if the opponent kills it straight away, it'll just go straight back to the coffin. Of course, exile stuff like Baleful Mastery or whatever will not come back. Of course, if they kill the artifact while he's in artifact form, will not come back. So it's not like invincible, but it's pretty hard to get rid of. It's really resilient, and these little 1/1 white black creature tokens with lifelink is pretty damn cool, considering a lot of the vampire triggers happen with gaining life in the set, and not once the opponent lost life, like in Midnight Hunt. So really cool card. And you'll see there's a card coming up here later, I believe. Or no, we've already gone past it yesterday. It was like whenever a 1/1 enters the battlefield, or anything under a 2-drop enters the battlefield, something happened. You drew a card or something like that. And since that Markov is pumping out a 1/1 every turn until it comes back as Markov, then you can see lots of little synergies happening. Where is that card? I'm trying to figure out where it is. Sorry, never mind. It was whenever something with pound toughness, I think it was 1 or lower, or 2 or lower, entered the battlefield, you got to draw a card. So white enchantment. So like it might fit with this, for example. And there's many other things you can do with that. And it's not bad. It's 4/4. Gives all your other vamps +1/+1. Misa Likey Edgar. I think I'll probably run like a 2 of. Next up, Sanguine Statuette. A 2-mana artifact. 1 and a red. When it enters the battlefield, you create a blood token. Boom. When you sacrifice a blood token, you may have Sanguine Statuette become a 3/3 vampire artifact creature, which haste until end of turn. They've done a few of these. They had it in the cycling set. They had it in. It was like an enchantment. I think it was in Corset 2021 that had like sort of prowess. I think it was, where like whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, your enchantment became a little 3/3 flyer. It was like Griffin something. It's kind of similar. It's also a 3/3, and it become whenever something happens, your artifact becomes a creature, and you can attack, and then it trains it back into the statuette. And the fact that it makes a blood token when it ETBs for a relatively low investment is not bad at all. I think that might actually see some play if there's like a more blood token, highly focused blood token vampire deck. Next up, Blood Tithe Harvester, another 2-drop in vamps. It's already on the. There's the Socialite. And now we've got this guy. It's just a vampire, 3/2. And then enters a battlefield, you create a blood token. Sacrifice Blood Tithe Harvester. Okay. Target creature gets -X/-X until the end of turn, where X is twice the number of blood tokens you control. That's pretty cool. It's like a removal spell on a body. They're doing this more and more. I kind of really like that actually. I think there's going to be at least 2 or 3 different kind of viable and strong vampire options. The aforementioned mid-range Imadu one, the upgraded aggro one from Midnight Hunt with the good new pieces from Crimson Vow, and then a fully Crimson Vowy like blood token focused one. And I can't wait to try them all, and it'll be interesting to see which is best. But Blood Tithe Harvester, nice. Also deals with indestructible, -X, That's twice the number. You can sacrifice relatively few blood tokens to kill a much bigger creature. So nice. Next up, we have a Spanish card, which I need to click on. Panicked Spectator and Giggling Culprit. Panicked Spectator. It's a human peasant for 2 mana. It's a 2/2. And whenever Panicked Spectator or another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. At the beginning of your end step. Sorry, I just got super dry. At the beginning of your end step, if you have gained 3 or more life this turn, transformed Panic Spectator into Giggling Culprit. Whenever Giggling Culprit or another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. Meh. Giggling Culprit gains Death Touch until end of turn for 1 in the black. Maybe it was Jaren. It's a human after all. A bit weird. I'm not sure. Don't think that'll see much play at all. Next up, talking about 4-drop, werewolf stuff earlier with regards to Wolfkin Outcast, and 4-drop with regards to the Creepy Puppeteer in a mono red deck. I think this is just altogether better. Ill-Tempered Hermit and Howling Pax Avenger. 4-drop, 2 and 2 red. Human werewolf. Whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target. Ill-Tempered Hermit gets +2/+0 until end of turn by paying 2. So you can dump mana into this and do it as many times as you like. And then when it's Nightbound, whenever a permanent you control is dealt damage, Howling Pax Avenger deals that much damage to any target. Interesting. Really interesting card. I'm not entirely sure how that's gonna, like, especially the backside. Like, how can you deal damage to anything other than like a planeswalker and or a creature? But cool, interesting. Probably like a 2 of in the. Already we've got Arlen on turn 4. That's about it in the werewolf deck. So probably gonna actually definitely see some play. Next up, Bride's Gown. 2 mana, 1 and a white. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and it gets an additional +0/+0 and has first strike as long as. Okay, so this is completing that cycle. I actually knew this would come. The other part was the headpiece or something like that. It's another piece of her wedding dress, Olivia. And once you've assembled all the pieces as equipments onto a creature, then they gain like extra bonuses. In this case, as long as you're wearing the groom's finery on the creature as well, then you get +2/+2 total. Pretty cool. Next up, Hullbreaker Horror, a Kraken Horror. This is in the deck, in the set, and I knew, and they showed us this card. I knew they would have to do this because there aren't any good Krakens left. Yeah, if I scroll too far, you know the guy I mean. This guy, Runo. This is gonna go in your Runo deck, okay? This is what's gonna make Runo work. A 7/8 that can't be counted, and whenever you cast a spell, you either Return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hands. So you can save itself. It can bounce up the opponent's, things. Even, tokens from the Seeker's Chariot, stuff like that. So really, 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 really good. Ooh, we're almost at the end here. Little bit you would have to cheat it into play or do something like that with the guy we just looked at down there, because otherwise it's prohibitively expensive and doesn't do anything when the ETB is okay. It can't be countered, but it can still just die to removal, and then you have to wait until you cast another spell on top of it to start doing any of these things. But it would be cool with that zombie down there, in like a zombies, sea creatures, tribal that they seem to try to be signaling here to us. Next up, Lanterna de dos Perdidos, the Lantern of the Lost. Yes. When the Lantern of the Lost enters the battlefield, exile target card from a graveyard. Okay, so it's they always do these lantern artifacts that do exile hate, graveyard hate. This is on a pretty cheap thing. That's why it's uncommon. This is really good. Exile Lantern. If it had flash, it would be ridiculous. Exile target Lantern of the exile all cards from all graveyard. Oh, ooh, oh, oh! Wow, that is so good. Guess we kind of needed it, but that's a real pain in the butt. It's been a while. So we had a thing just like this. It was called like something crypt. I want to say something crypt. Hmm. This is gonna be a great sideboard piece, like go blank and stuff like that with all these flashback cards, and this is gonna be crazy. Anyway, Lantern of the Lost. Next up, we've got Howling Moon, a 3-mana enchantment in green. Another 3-mana enchantment in green. Would you look at that? This one's definitely better. This one I've actually seen spoiled on Facebook already today, and I think it will see like sparing play, like maybe a 2 of in the Wolves deck, because it's sharing a spot with many good wolves. But if you do have this on the board, it's like a wolf engine more than anything. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target wolf or werewolf you control get +2/+2 until the end of turn. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Maybe even if if we can't find a spot for it in the main deck, like a 2 of or 3 of in the sideboard against mono white is just great. Because they're trying to double cast every turn, and this de-incentivizes them from doing so, and then eventually they kind of need to because they're falling behind, and then every time that they do, you even get a wolf creature token. It's really not that bad. I think this is gonna see some play, but I don't think it'll be a 4 of, like maybe 2 of alongside all your already pre-existing good 3 drops. Yeah, man, the list goes on. There's Tovalar, there's the Reckless Stormseeker, there is the Adversary, Primal Adversary. So next up, Unholy Officiant, 1 mana for a common Vampire Cleric. It's a white vampire. You can pay 5 any number of times and you put a counter on it. So you can dump 10 mana in here and make it into a 3/4 woo and attack. This is nonsense. It'll never see any play. Next up and second last, Odric the Blood Cursed. Another 3-drop, legendary vampire soldier. Struggling for space here. This is an interesting one though. I've read it before. When it enters the battlefield, you create X blood tokens, where X is the number of abilities from among flying first strike doubles up. So basically all the abilities found among creatures you control. So if you have a flyer, death touch, and it's even if some of them have more than one, uh, you know, flying death touch lifelink usually in your vamps, then it'll come into play with, and it'll make 4 or 5 blood tokens, which is really sweet. And then it's just a 3/3. I don't know. There's probably better things. Maybe again, like I said, because Olivia does that thing where she reanimates things from the graveyard and brings them back to the battlefield. But then, if there are no legendary vampires on the battlefield, all the stuff she brought back to the battlefield will get exiled. And so, you want legendary vampires interspersed along your curve so that when you do eventually drop Olivia and start swinging and reanimating stuff, and let's say they do just target remove her straight away, which they highly incentivize to do because she's that good, then you don't immediately exile the thing that you got back from the graveyard straight away because of you having other legendary vamps on the board. So this might be one of those, but there's already the one from Midnight Hunt that draws you cards, essentially Darren or something like that, Volren, which I'm running right now in my vamp deck. I lag. So we'll have to see. Because anyway, here we go. Another 3-drop. And this is, vampire again. So clearly this vampire tribal is supposed to be Mardu. And it's just interesting that they're, again, like this contested slot. Again, a 3-drop. But this is the first fully white vampire. Not a vampire cleric. It's just a white vampire. 3 mana. Welcoming vampire. Aha, here we go. This is the card that I was talking about. It was the first card. That'll work in conjunction with Edgar. So whenever one or more creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So if they've just removed Edgar and it flips to the coffin, and then the next turn you play the welcoming vampire, then every turn while the vampire is outside the coffin and Markov is in, you get a little 2/2. Sorry, it's a 1/1, and you draw a card until eventually he comes back. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty nifty. Mono white card draw in a vampire deck. Interesting to see how it shapes up. If we can just do like a fully Orzhov one without any red vampires. There's some good black vampires already. But all right, I don't do commander content, so I'm not going to look at these cards. I'm sorry. If you're into commander, go and look it up. I'll always leave the link to Mythic Spoiler in the video description of all of these spoiler videos. So yeah, if you're into commander, go check it out on here, but I'm not going to talk about those cards. One last little refresh to make sure nothing new has arrived. Yeah, that's going to be it for tonight's spoiler talk. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed these. The view numbers are clearly much lower. There's so many other content creators doing this type of content, but I don't care. I feel it's a way of me exploring the set before it comes out. I'm just talking myself through it, and I like to share that with you guys. So I put them up every day, and I will continue to do so right until the end of spoiler season, which could have been today, and it's probably tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, and then yeah, like I've said a few times, we're gonna be doing the theory crafting videos after that. So stay tuned. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next video, and until then, this is Lone Fox from the BrewLab, signing out. Peace, y'all.